Hello everyone, this is Atmosfear, and today I'm going to help out IdioFrequency to talk about the mechanics in Injustice 2. If you haven't yet, go through the tutorial mode in the Injustice game. It goes over every basic thing that you need to know. I'm going to be going a little bit more in depth into the mechanics that the game has, and its pros and cons, and what I think of the mechanics overall. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about are combo strings. So what are combo strings? Combo strings are basically a series of attacks that are unique to each character. Each character has maybe like 5 or 6 different combo strings, and it's drawn criticism for being very dial a combo. Like a lot of older Mortal Kombat, if you just memorize the attack string, you can just pump it out and it'll automatically just kind of give you a combo. And they've brought it over to the last Injustice and Mortal Kombat X, and now this one. It's just how NetherRealms does their attacks. But what's different about this kind of game is that you can special cancel them, kind of like how it is in Street Fighter, where you input a special move at some point during the combo string, and it'll cancel into a special move. So special canceling your combo strings does a couple of different things. For one, it makes combos, duh. That's how you make some of the crazy combos. The second thing is you can actually make high and low mix-ups. Some specials hit low while some strings are going overhead. You can cancel an overhead into a low like Swamp Thing does. Really messes with your opponent's head. And you can also cancel the special moves to actually make the string safe. Some special moves are actually safe on block as opposed to the attack string is unsafe. So what do I personally think of combo strings and special moves and special canceling? Some people complain that it's very dial combo. Me personally, to me it's kind of like Tekken. Some of the attack strings remind me of Tekken, and the canceling reminds me of Street Fighter. I've dabbled in both, so to me it's not that bad of a problem. Some people like it, some people don't. Let's move on. So this next section I'm going to dedicate to the wake up game. So what is the wake up game? The wake up game is when your character gets knocked down and he's getting up from the ground. When you're getting up from the ground, there's only so much you can do. If your opponent keeps attacking you, you could just keep eating the attacks and keep taking damage. There's a few options you have, and a lot of them are actually pretty closely related to the Street Fighter and SNK style. And one of the classics is the wake up attack, aka the classic invincible reversal. A lot of attacks in this game, as you input a special move as you're getting up, your character will automatically execute it, and a lot of these special moves actually have invincibility. In this game, every special move can be done on wake up and count as a wake up attack, but only a few of them will actually be invincible. So you need to go into training mode and figure out which one of your character's special moves have that invincibility. And a lot of times it's actually one of the most unsafe ones, and it's very risk reward, so you have to think about it before using it. The next thing I want to bring up is the reversal. Now, reversals are kind of related to the wake up game. Basically, to do a reversal, you have to input a special move right as you block an attack. Right as soon as the attack is done, you will do a special move right out of the block stun. You'll try to attack opponent with whatever special move you did. This can be really useful. It's very character dependent. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. You just gotta mess around with it and see which is which. Now, I want to bring up one of my personal favorite wake up options, is the backdash. Now the backdash is invincible for the first few frames. So you can actually dodge attacks, you can dodge throws, you can dodge all kinds of things as long as the attack doesn't keep going, because you're actually vulnerable at the end of the backdash. So if someone's doing an attack string, maybe you should just block it. If you think they're going to go for a throw or just go for a heavy attack, maybe you can backdash and avoid it. It's one of my favorites. I've dodged a lot of things with it. A lot of people don't really know about it, and I think it's underused. I think it's something that's very important and useful, and I'd say use it more. Backdash on wake up. Backdash on wake up. You can dodge a lot of things. Next thing I'm going to bring up is the delayed wake up. So delayed wake up is when your character is knocked down. You press the left trigger, I believe, and your character will actually take longer to get up. Now you might be asking yourself, why would you do that? And it's because if someone knows how to pressure you on get up, it'll mess up their timing. So let's say if I'm pressuring you with more sweeps, maybe more throws each time I knock you down and you're getting up, you can delay the wake up, you can actually mess up my timing, and you may actually get out. This can actually be really useful, just like the backdash, if you know what your opponent is going to do. It's all mind games on the wake up, and back to delayed wake up is another important tool. So the last option for this section is the tech roll. A tech roll is performed when your character is knocked to the ground. You press any attack button as the character hits the ground, and your character will roll backwards and tech it. This is possible as long as you are not hit with a hard knockdown move like a sweep. Now, the tech roll can be good to put space between you and opponent. It's also good because you don't have to deal with the wake up mind games. You can just tech up and get right back up on your feet. And this is really good, but you have to know which moves you're kind of getting hit with, so you know if you can tech it or not. A lot of these moves can be tricky, and you may not be able to tech it. So you just have to go into training mode and figure out which is which. So this next section is going to quickly talk about stage transitions and interactables, which is something they introduced in the first Injustice and kind of what makes it unique among other fighting games. So what are stage transitions and interactables? Stage transitions happen when someone is when you put your opponent at the edge of a stage and you press back heavy. Your character will kick them off the stage and they'll take a ton of damage as they crash to the arena and land into a different part of the arena, which is like a whole new different stage. It's pretty damaging, maybe like around 20% roughly. But the problem with this, and why some pros don't like to do it, is because it actually resets the stage position and you lose that corner control. So if I have my opponent in the corner, maybe I want to keep him there. But if I actually do a back heavy, I knock him out, he'll take damage, but now I have to go back in the center stage and push him all the way back to the corner again. And most of the time, you want your opponent cornered. So even though the stage transition is free damage and it looks really cool, maybe it's not the best option. Maybe you want to keep your opponent in the corner. But I like to do it anyway sometimes just to watch the cool stage transitions. But if you want to take it more competitively and seriously, keep them in the corner and don't do it. So the next thing I want to talk about are interactables. Interactables are things that are all over the stage that your character can use to help them in the battle. Some of them are objects your character can throw. Some of them are things your character can jump off of. Some of them your character can put a bomb on and explode. Interactables can differ depending on the character you pick. I believe it's power, gadget, and athletic. And each of them kind of interact with interactables differently. In the first Injustice game, the game drew criticism because a lot of these interactables were just really unblockable and just kind of unfair and just really annoying. You cannot just take an unblockable projectile from across the screen and lose like 50% of your life. In this game, they kind of changed it up where some are unblockable, some are not. You kind of have to mess around with each stage to figure out which one is which. They've also added something in the first game that they brought over to this game it was meter burn interactable, where if you meter burn right before you interact with something, it'll actually give you 1 frame of super armor. And that was actually added late to the first Injustice game, and they brought it over to this one. I don't see it very often. I personally do it every now and then because I like free unblockable damage. But it is an option, and it's something to be wary about when you're fighting on a stage. So this last section is the most important one, and that is meter burn. Meter burn is the right trigger or R2 button, depending on which console you're using, and it basically uses the meter from the meter bar to do all kinds of different things, from boosting up your special moves to roll blocks and roll escapes and air escapes, supers, clashes. I'm gonna go all over all of this. It's kind of a long one, but let's get started. So the first obvious thing you're going to want to use meter for is your special moves. The special moves, when used with the meter burn, often give longer combos. Some of them get more invincibility. Some of them just add a lot of more damage. Some of them add more extra projectiles. Get it in training mode, get the character, and test all of it and see which ones are good. Not all of them are. So you just got to figure out which ones are which. One of the most useful things you can use meter for is the forward heavy and back heavy. So using meter burn with the forward heavy or back heavy will give it 1 frame of super armor. Why is that useful? Because it allows for combos and stage transitions. It also allows for mind games. Say if you think your opponent's going to do reversal, you can go ahead and do a meter burn forward heavy. You'll armor the reversal and pop him into the air for a combo. Make him think twice before throwing out that reversal. Maybe you want that stage transition and you have him in the corner. Go ahead and meter burn that back heavy. It'll knock him off the stage and get free damage. Why not? Speaking of the meter burn back heavy, and forward heavy, they brought in a new combos mechanic that was actually added late to the first Injustice, and you can actually cancel any combo string into a forward heavy or back heavy at the cost of 2 meters. Now this is done by pressing forward, forward, back, back, or quarter circle forward or quarter circle back, meter burn. So what happens is you'll be doing a combo string and you input that input with the meter burn, you'll cancel it into either the forward heavy or back heavy, giving you a wall bounce or a ground bounce, allowing for very damaging combos. 2 meters is kind of heavy for it in my opinion. The damage is really awesome though. I prefer to be more conservative, but if you want that damage and you think you can kill your opponent doing it, then by all means use 2 meters. Go ahead and cancel into those heavies. Get that sweet combo damage. The next thing I want to talk about is block escape, aka push blocking. So block escape is done right when you block a move. You can press forward and meter burn. You actually push your opponent off of you at the cost of 1 meter. So say your opponent is crushing you with all these very fast combo strings and you're trying to block high and low and you're getting your butt handed to you. If you're blocking and you want your opponent off and you want that breathing space, you can go ahead and use it. I see it every now and then. I personally don't use it because I like to be more conservative with my meter. I like to save it from my special moves and clashing. But push blocking is totally viable. And if you are getting pressured by someone with a lot of pressuring strings, like maybe Catwoman or something, go ahead and use it, get that breathing space. It may make a difference in the match. You never know. So the next mechanic I'm going to bring up is a new mechanic to Injustice 2 called the roll escape. Now the roll escape is a very far and pretty invincible dash, executed by dashing and then pressing A or X and meter burn. Your character will fly forward almost half the screen and roll. And it's mainly meant to get in on zoners. There is some issues that people have with it though. For one, it's not an instant invincible dash. You actually have to start up a regular dash and then input it so you can get the full invincibility and the full distance. Someone like Deadshot, people tend to use it a lot. But even with Deadshot, he can make it very difficult because of how fast his projectiles are and how little recovery he gets. It could keep interrupting just a normal dash. You might not even get the roll escape on. But the roll escape is pretty useful. Someone like Bane could definitely use it against a lot of strong zoners like Dr. Fate maybe. At the cost of 1 meter, it could definitely make a difference. I do use it sparingly. I would recommend you use it sparingly. Be careful when you use it. Because it's definitely not invincible at the beginning. It may not be the best to use to get out of a corner. You just gotta mess around with it. See what the best time is. See who the best characters are to use it against. It's mostly zoners though. Next thing I want to talk about are the super moves. So the super moves are executed when you have your meter bar is completely full. And you activate it by pressing both left trigger and right trigger, or L2 and R2 depending on what console you're using. The supers are very cool. A lot of them are cinematic. A lot of them are better than the first game. Like Green Arrows looks way cooler. Batman's though maybe not as cool. Bane's is definitely awesome. One of my favorites. They are very high damaging. They are unclashable. You cannot escape out of it once you're hit. The main downside to supers are they are not actually invincible at the startup. They have super armor. So you could punish a projectile or jump in with supers. That definitely works. With that said, you probably won't see supers very often because of how meter heavy that this game is. But you will see them occasionally. Something like Bane or Swamp Thing, theirs hit full screen and low. So I like to use Bane's to punish projectiles. You might also see supers towards the end of a match where if I want to clutch out a victory and I don't want the opponent using Clash to get out, I might do a super. Sometimes I'll do it on Wake Up if I think my opponent is pushing buttons. Not the best idea though, but it definitely works sometimes. I would definitely not recommend you use supers very often because of how meter heavy this game is. With so much different meter options, it's probably best to save it and not really go for the supers. Up next, we have a new mechanic to Injustice 2 called the Air Escape. The Air Escape allows you, at the cost of 2 meters, to break out of a combo that your opponent has you in. And there's two different options. There's the back air escape and the up air escape, which is executed by pressing back or up and meter burn. You use up 2 meters and you'll pop out of a combo. This is actually very useful. You can definitely avoid combos in using this mechanic. Even though it is meter heavy, 2 meters is a lot in this game. I would definitely still use it though occasionally, especially if I know my opponent has really good combos and they're really catching me a lot. It could definitely throw them off, and you could definitely decide the match if used correctly. However, if you air escape, you are vulnerable on the way down. So if your opponent knows that you're going to air escape, they can just not push buttons and wait for you to come back down and punish you even harder. This creates a lot of mind games, but it could definitely still decide a match if you escape at the right time. 2 meters though, you gotta be careful when you use it. The last and final thing that we're going to discuss is the clash system, aka the wager system. So this was in the first Injustice game, and this functions in a few different ways. For one thing, it's a combo breaker. It's executed while you're in a combo. You press forward and meter burn, and your character will break the combo. The two characters will clash and exchange dialogue, and then you can bet how much meter you want to use to get out of this. If you bet enough and you bet more than your opponent, you'll break out of the combo and you actually gain health back, up to about 33% I think. If you don't bet enough and you lose the clash, you actually take more damage. This can create some very high level mind games, as you kind of depend, do you want to save the meter for the clash? Do you want to even use all the meter for your clash? Maybe you want to make your opponent use up all their meter for the clash while you use nothing, and you can keep all your meter for the rest of the match. There are some catches though. You cannot clash during certain moves. You cannot clash out of, say, a forward heavy or a back heavy. You cannot clash throws. We tested, we cannot clash projectiles or special moves, but clash can make such a big difference. Combo breaking and getting health back all in the same mechanic, that can make a huge difference. But you gotta use your meter wisely. You can mess with your opponent. Definitely one of the most interesting mechanics, and I'm glad they brought it back. I know Mr. Genshi isn't a fan of this mechanic, but I see it all over tournaments, I see it everywhere, and it's definitely an interesting mechanic. And definitely is cool that the NetherRealms actually went to the trouble of making a dialogue for every character, even if the character is in a diddle match. Alright, well that's been a more in-depth look at the mechanics of Injustice 2. This has been Atmosfear, helping out my boy Genshi. Give him likes and subscribes, and check out his other videos. Alright, I'm gonna go play more Injustice 2. I'm out.